I think there is even like sometimes a misunderstanding leadership versus being a manager, because I think everyone can become a manager like through a title or you get promoted. But leadership is not really about titles. I would say it's really about...
Hello and welcome to the Virtually Anything Goes podcast. This episode is part of our Leadership Stories series where we speak to leaders from a variety of different backgrounds, including AI, healthcare, software, strategy, executive coaching, and others. And if you like what you hear in this episode, be sure to subscribe and check out our other episodes too. Today, I'm talking to Anna Lämber about her story into leadership, what got her to where she is today, and which obstacles and opportunities helped her to grow into a leader. Anna is the Vice President of EMEA Marketing at leading industrial software company Aviva. Anna started her career in marketing at Hewlett-Packard, where she spent 8 years, before moving to Trend Micro, where she also spent 8 years. In 2015, Anna joined ServiceNow, where she led the EMEA North marketing function until 2024 during ServiceNow's meteoric growth. And if that wasn't enough, Anna is also a board member at Nordic property technology platform AGV, as well as being an executive coach and advisor. Anna lives in Sweden, and she's a very keen, fitness-orientated person, a keen equestrian, and has been known to lead colleagues through early morning Tabata sessions during work-away days. Anna Lämber, very warm welcome to you. I'm delighted to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you, and we'll get into our conversation in a moment. If this is your first time listening to the Virtually Anything Goes podcast, stick around until the very end when I turn control over to Anna and she can ask me her Virtually Anything Goes question. This can be any question at all, and I won't know what it is until Anna asks me, so it could literally be anything. The only caveat is that Anna will have to answer the same question after I have given my answer. So Anna, you were born and raised in Sweden. You studied for a bachelor's degree in business administration and international business, whilst also working full-time for Hewlett-Packard. You then went on to finish your studies in Australia. That is an ambitious start to any career. Tell me more about the school-aged Anna. Was she always ambitious and laser-focused?
Well, I wouldn't say I was laser focused. I guess I wanted to do well, but it wasn't probably until a bit later I kind of got a bit more focused in terms of, what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. So potentially more, it was, more luck in the beginning. So focus came, a little bit later.
So what was young Anna interested in if she wasn't focused to begin with?
No, I mean, I was pretty much that ordinary girl, hanged out a lot in the stable. I was pretty good in school, I guess, but it wasn't like anything special. I kind of embraced different opportunities throughout. So that one thing led to another. But it was more, I guess, coincidence and luck than maybe focus in the very early days.
Yeah, good. And obviously it sounds like that's where your love of horses came from as well, from an early age.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I come from a family where everyone was into horses, so I guess I was kind of, in a way, forced into that. But I truly love working with horses, and that was, definitely, and is still my passion. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's look at your career and how it started. You'd been working for HP for a number of years before deciding to study alongside your full-time job as well. We touched on that in the introduction. What made you decide to take a job before university, and then later, what made you to decide not to obtain not one but 2 degrees?
Yeah, for me, I think it was I was pretty tired of school, honestly. Like you do your 12 years, and I wanted to, I guess, earn a bit money and to really sort of, I guess, find my way in the professional life. I was lucky as well to meet a few people that kind of opened a few doors, which I embraced. But I learned quite early on at HP at the time, like if I were to get the more, let's say, senior jobs, I needed like a door opener, and most people had a university degree. So for me, that I guess it kind of started to kind of, at least my vision of what I would potentially like to do. I needed a little bit of more, let's say, that academic, entry card, if you like. But I was still keen to, keep my independence and have my own money. So that's why I did that combination. I'm not sure if I would recommend it to people today because, yeah, back in the days, it was pretty full on with, going to university, doing the classes, go back to work. I was lucky having a very flexible manager at the time. So I was really I could come and go as I wanted, but it was pretty long hours. My life was kind of focused mostly on work and studies. So yeah, very intense period, and it was good with no student loans. But I'm not sure if I would do the same thing over again.
Well, I mean, you were clearly very determined at that young age as well, and I wonder, with the start that you had and the way you had it, was there a belief or a behavior back then in the early days of your career that you now disagree with, that perhaps changed, and what happened, or what did you experience for that sort of opinion to change?
Yeah, I think, obviously with very limited experience from the professional life, I think at the beginning, I believed working kind of longest hours, doing everything you would be asked to do, like that kind of automatically would mean that you would be successful or maybe getting your new opportunity. So it's kind of like effort is the same as impact, if you like, but obviously over time, I learned that it's very much about how you prioritize, how you're focusing, and how you're kind of building through others. And I guess that's also kind of where my initial ambition and maybe passion for leading people started to come into play. Some of the most maybe effective leaders that I work with, they were not maybe necessarily the loudest or the most busiest, but they listened, they empowered people, and really obviously multiplying the impact through their teams. So that is something I'm at least trying to shift, and also probably change quite a lot of my mindset then versus now.
Yeah, interesting. When I introduced you, obviously we covered that you spent several 8-year stints at companies, which speaks to obviously your professionalism and your success. But I wonder, was there a moment in your career where you went from passively finding yourself in a situation or a job to where you went to proactively orchestrating your career?
Yeah, definitely, and this one. It's a really good one because I think it's all about intention in the end, and during, I guess, my first years, like I said, it really, a lot happened to me. Obviously, I was intentional with my studies and how I kind of built out my foundation to a greater degree, but it wasn't really until I started to clearly articulate and reflect on what I really wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And this is where your personal development plan and similar would come into play, or at least I started to write down, what I wanted to become, or what I wanted to learn, and started to circulate that both with my manager, but also with peers or other colleagues. And that also made me, the more I kind of spoke about where I wanted to go or what I wanted to learn, and really also understand what I needed to learn in order to get those opportunities. It really started to become more intentional and honestly put it on paper. And the more you talk about it, the more of a reality it became. So that for me, and this is it's a few years back now. But that was definitely kind of those defining moments for me. Put it down on paper and start to talk about it, and then obviously build a plan towards how to achieve the goals.
What triggered that decision to become intentional and write it down and kind of pursue it? Was there an aha moment, or was it just something that happened? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's a good one. I think definitely this happened, over time. I knew quite early on that I would like to be part of a team or a company or something where I could make a difference, where I could, impact to a certain degree. And the more I guess, experienced I became with my previous jobs, the more I realized that, getting into a leadership position and being able to sort of influence and scale and support others to grow and go to the direction which I would believe would be the right one. That's when it sort of started like a bit of, I guess, movement in my head. But yeah, it took some time because, I mean, honestly, I had a lot of, really, really good years, also in the very beginning with HB. Like we had so much fun, learned a lot. Obviously, it's a large organization. And then it kind of sort of, refined over the years. But definitely it was, it was something that grew over time. And with ServiceNow, I think that was the great opportunity given how fast that company grew and the opportunities that came along.
Do you still write things down now? Has that continued into the present day?
Yeah, I do. I have a little bit of a different structure maybe today. I mean, we have also at Aviva, we have our development plans and we have check-ins with our managers, and obviously I run the same with my team. But I have a little bit of a weekly routine where I write down kind of, I guess, the very short-term goals, and then I have with myself in terms of a quarterly kind of priority list. And yes, I do have a kind of a longer, 1+ year vision as well. And I do, it's sort of a once a year exercise for myself, where I kind of go through sort of past year, and then I look at, what are the learnings I made, but also what I would really like to kind of prioritize the coming maybe year or 2 or 3 years. So yeah, there is a little bit of a structure still, and it's probably, I think, useful for anyone just to do a little bit of a check-in with yourself. There is a little bit of a structure.
I mean, I've heard of other people doing this as well, writing things down, and whether you want to call it manifesting or whether it's just planning or just But I've not done it before myself. I have it in my head, but I don't write it down, and I probably should. But I mean, am I right in thinking that it can be scary to write something down and almost not commit to it, but set yourself that goal and then revisiting that in a year's or 2 years' time, and perhaps realizing it's either gone a different direction, it hasn't quite happened the way you'd had intended it. Is it scary, or is it actually really helpful and not scary at all?
Well, I mean, I've done it for so many years, so it's became, where it becomes a routine for me, but also, reflect on why you write it down, because it should ideally be only for yourself. I mean, you're not doing anything for anyone else in this example. So, I mean, being honest with yourself with what you really would like to achieve, and then it's also easier to kind of break it down and look at what are the kind of the stepping stones in order to go there. But also maybe not achieving what you initially aspire to achieve. Like, it's not a failure, and I think that's an important reflection as well. Because if you're not doing it, either, what happened during along the way that either delayed your process, or maybe something happened, you want to change direction. So obviously be intentional with what you write down or what you're prioritizing, but equally so, don't look at it as a potential failure if you're not achieving it within the time frame. But if you truly want something, and if you truly are eager to walk down a certain path, obviously there's some work to be done. And also really accept the fact and kind of enjoy the ride that you need to go outside of your comfort zone a little bit. And just, if you can, try to embrace, maybe that learning opportunity. Reflection time, again, write down or document in one shape or form. Again, just for yourself, unless you want to share it with someone that is close to you. It's, at least it gave me more joy and learnings than being scary.
Yeah, that was interesting. What's interesting as well is you mentioned failure, and it's a topic in this leadership series that we're running for this podcast. It's come up in many of the episodes, the topic of failure, and for example, Emma Acton from Zendesk said, don't view it as failure, see it as a trial run. Yeah, you've tried something and okay, it didn't work out, that's fine, try again. And you learn, as you said as well, you learn from that experience and move on. But what strikes me is, come.
Yeah, no, and I think maybe just to chip in there, because this is really, early on, I was probably more afraid of failing because it wasn't obviously the way it should be done. Like, that was my impression. And the learning I also made throughout the years is like when you really embraced, let's say, that, I don't know, failing opportunity, taking that as kind of, that was your learning, and really understanding how you did to make something different moving forward. I mean, look at any, I guess, really successful business leader. Like, it's through the failures they either refine and get an even better product, or become an even better leader, or learning something that takes the company to the next level. I mean, also on an individual level, unless you are failing, you are not really, I think, optimizing yourself or embracing other opportunities that will not come along unless you actually failed in a previous example.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think it's refreshing and surprising to a degree as well. When I set out to plan this series, to talk to leaders and explore their stories, I didn't anticipate the openness around failure or trial runs or whatever you want to call it, because I think leaders can sometimes be perceived. You look at LinkedIn. There's you show or many people show their best sides on LinkedIn, and there's a sort of persona to keep up, and that openness, I think, probably actually is a great insight into what it is to be a leader, is to actually be open about that, to embrace it, to use it as an opportunity rather than an end point. I failed, I can't carry on. So it's really, really interesting to see. I mean, you lead teams, and you've been leading teams for some time now. What do you think is it in your upbringing or your family background that's influenced you most in terms of your leadership style? We talked about your upbringing in Sweden, for example, and the stables and so on. Was there anything in that time that influenced how you are as a leader now?
I'd say empathy is probably, something that really comes from my upbringing. I grew up with parents who, really cared about family and friends, and, treating people with respect, and listening genuinely, just could change the dynamic of any situation. Asking a lot of questions, to get to know the people you have, close to you, and in a professional life, the people that you work with. But not only on a professional level, because I think we are individuals, and also after hours, very few people are different after hours and during work hours. So trying to understand a bit more about the people that I work with, and really what triggers them, and leading with empathy. I think as anyone, in a high performing organization, I do expect high performance, but I also believe that people do thrive when they feel understood and when they feel valued. So that is something I definitely got from my upbringing.
Are there any things that you remember your parents repeatedly telling you as advice or anything like that influenced the way you look at the world?
Of course, I was very lucky because my parents always believed in me, but they were never pushy. They were never, let's say, necessarily challenging me in a way, which would have been good now reflecting on it. But very supportive, and I think that supportiveness, knowing that it was a very strong foundation, that you could always fall back to. That was something I in my more sort of later years I realized I appreciate more, maybe compared to what I did when I was growing up. But they have been very supportive, and they have been very caring, and listening has been a key part of that. So yeah, hopefully I'm bringing that to my leadership style as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. So you have your sort of first 2 8-year stints, and then you in 2015 joined ServiceNow. And that was a time when the company grew exponentially, and the marketing structure in EMEA changed quite significantly too. They probably, and you touched on it briefly earlier, there probably couldn't have been a better opportunity to evolve and grow in your leadership and kind of extend your leadership skills as during that time, because there was so much happening and the company was growing so much. What's the biggest takeaway, do you think, from that period for you in terms of what you learned about leadership?
Wow. I mean, there are so many. ServiceNow was, I mean, definitely a defining chapter in my life in many ways. It was, I mean, it was so many years of extremely hard work, but so much fun. We changed as a company, I think every year. I met, I mean, so many amazing people, and actually a lot of them are still my friends today. But it always felt like we were kind of building a plane mid-flight, because of the growth, and because of the development of the company. It really felt that, I mean, so just to paint a picture, the first years we grew like 40, 50, 60%, year over year. But we also didn't really have too much, let's say, of a track record, because we were changing and we were evolving so much. So I guess the biggest learning was adaptability, trying to stay focused and creating clarity in like uncertain times, or when, we knew where we wanted to go, but like how to get there wasn't necessarily always like a straight path, again, because of the maybe lack of track record and the extreme development from a company perspective, which I absolutely loved. But then how to use and kind of being, adaptable, but trying to scale through others, but also empower others, was definitely a big takeaway. Working more also cross-functional. Obviously, I had a marketing responsibility, but working really close with other functions, whether it would be sales or pre-sales or, customer outcomes, or our partner organization, to really, through a cross-functional collaboration, be able to scale and work as effective as possible, given the pace and the constant thing was change, which I loved, but definitely it was a good learning experience in many aspects.
Do you recall any situations or conversations from your leaders at the time that kind of inspired you, or where you thought, here's something that I relate to, that I like? You talked about empathy, for example, that you've since sort of emulated and followed, and that kind of inspired you a little bit?
Again, there's so many, but I was very fortunate to spend some time with one of the CMOs during the time, and I was always impressed. So Alan Marks is his name, and I was always impressed by his presence. So even obviously we were often remote, but his ability to be like in the room and really being focused and asking questions in a way that really, I think, had a very, depth in the conversation, that for me was always very, very inspiring. And obviously, learning more about how he viewed marketing and, connecting the dots, that was, an extremely useful experience for me.
So just leading on from that, I suppose, I mean, in your opinion, and both as a leader as well as an employee, what do you think is, I suppose, the most underrated leadership trait or kind of quality that you think that's really important, but actually is probably underrated in the grand scheme of things and traits that we look at?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, so being a leader, we talk a lot about, vision and the decisiveness, and I think as leaders we're often expected to have answers, but I would say listening and really being present would be two of of the traits that are probably more important than anything. And it's easy to say, right? I mean, yeah, we should, practice active listening, and you should be present, not only professionally, but in every situation. But it requires quite hard work. But I also find that when you are truly able to be present and truly able to listen, asking questions and really listening to the answer and how things are being shared, that is, I think, the most powerful situation you can be in as a leader, because again, making sure that people are feeling heard, and learning from others through active listening, then the conversation, the relationship can really become magical. So definitely active listening and truly trying to be present. Those two are definitely underrated.
And I suppose that can be, I mean, you described the situation with ServiceNow where there's constant change and, you're going into uncharted territory and doing things that perhaps haven't been done before. It must be quite hard during those times because there's so much going on and your attention is divided, I suppose, right? But how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. It's like, I think in most, most assignments you have, when you have, quite a few different things going on. I mean, you're never going to be finished, right? I mean, there's not, at 6 o'clock, you're kind of logging off and going home, and there is no work because you completed, a lot of tasks. You always kind of switched on in a way. So you also have to learn how to kind of navigate that. And that will always be, something new coming up. But I mean, over time as well, like how to try to, coming back to how to prioritize, and trying to understand, where would sort of the, most impact, or depending on your priorities, like where, which tasks and which kind of projects would be most impactful. Trying to prioritize, that is really important, because it's no, the job will not just get done when the day is over. So the kind of inability to prioritize and understanding the outcome is going to be, well, it is a important component for sure.
Yeah. I suppose goes all the way back to what you said about taking notes. That's prioritizing as well, isn't it? What do you prioritize in your own career? And I suppose, I mean, there will be leaders listening to this conversation, and there will be those perhaps aspiring to become leaders who are listening to this conversation as well. What do you think is one of the most misunderstood things that people have in their minds about leadership, and they don't realize until you're really in the thick of it yourself that I misunderstood that. I didn't think that about leadership in the right way. What do you think is misunderstood?
I think there is even sometimes a misunderstanding leadership versus being a manager, because I think everyone can become a manager through a title, or you get promoted, in the company hierarchy. But leadership is not really about titles. I would say it's really about creating followers, leading by example, and then making sure that you hopefully have people that are following you. I mean, that's true leadership. I think anyone can be a leader, honestly. I mean, it is not about who is formally reporting into you, again through the kind of the hierarchy. But I think that's, I wouldn't say misunderstanding maybe, but it's definitely something where leaders, are you a true leader, or are you managers? That's kind of number one. And sometimes I think maybe people say it's glamorous, right? I mean, from the outside, leadership can look great and shiny, there's titles and there's big decisions, and you have certain visibility. But in reality, it also means that making sometimes really tough calls, having uncomfortable conversations, and also sometimes carrying a responsibility even when outcomes are not guaranteed. It is incredibly rewarding, but yeah, sometimes you can't really fully understand it until you are truly in the role.
It sounds like what you're saying is, in an ideal world, you become a leader first and then a manager, or leadership first and then titles will follow. Ideally, that's the better way of looking at it, because it makes you a better leader and manager.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like I said, manager is just kind of on paper. I mean, leadership is more, the behavioral aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just, I suppose you touched on it slightly. I mean, in leadership, we have ups and downs, and as a leader, I suppose you have to work out how do you maintain the balance between, I suppose, on the one side, the human vulnerability and dealing with setbacks, and we spoke about failure or kind of trial runs, however you want to call it. And on the other side, I suppose, being a professional leader and pursuing the goal that either you set yourself or that the company set yourself. How do you strike that balance?
I mean, I think when you look at the two things, it's not really like an opposite. I would say in most cases, like, being real and being true to yourself, that kind of comes then, if you are that, it should come natural with, obviously being professional. I mean, I'll admit some things are tough, and obviously I don't have all the answers, but I'll try to pair that with like the direction on how to move forward. I mean, I'm pretty much the same person, honestly, both in my personal life and in my professional life. Obviously, from professional perspective, we have goals to achieve. We are going in a certain direction, but it doesn't mean that you can't be vulnerable or you can't share personal things along the way. And I mean, you also need to find that balance in every situation. You have your professional life and you have your personal self. So combining those two is in an authentic way, I think, is really, really important.
I suppose not everybody, and maybe it's a career thing, maybe it's a maturity thing, maybe it's a personality thing, but I suppose not everyone is always themselves exactly the same way they are at home versus at work. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that if you can have that, if you are the same person, it actually makes the leadership side easier, because you're not pretending, you're not putting on a facade, right? Is that right?
Yeah, and also I think it's about like the level of energy. Like at least I can only speak for myself, obviously, but if I would be someone else at work, I would probably need to put a lot of energy to sort of maintain or keep that, let's say, personality or that character. And for me, that would be, let's say, too much hard work or energy put into something that potentially might not be as rewarding. So, I mean, obviously there is a nuance here, right? I mean, in a personal context, there are situations that you might react slightly different to, and the professional agenda and what we are to achieve as a company, and how you collaborate and communicate with your team or your peers, etc. It's obviously maybe slightly more polished in some areas, but I truly try to bring myself, to the table and to the meetings, and it just helped me, I think, to kind of channel, I guess, my energy in a way that, I'm not pretending to be one person at work and then I'm someone totally different at home.
So it's interesting you mentioned the energy element, because it now makes me wonder. Well, it makes me look at myself, but also makes me wonder: do you think you are introvert, or do you think you're an extrovert?
So you've done a lot of, well, at least I've done a lot of tests, like personality tests throughout the years. And what I've learned is that we all have both in us. It's just, I guess, a little bit of like where on the scale you are. I'm definitely more of an extrovert personality. I do thrive having people around me, and I also really like to work in a team and with people. I kind of prefer being obviously alone as well. So I don't really mind spending time doing my own stuff, but like on that scale, I'm definitely more of that extrovert person. It's purely because I truly get the energy when I am with a person or with a group. So my energy is mainly coming through the collaboration, communication, and engagement with other people. But with that said, yes, I do need sort of my own time and also my own reflection time. But yeah, on this, definitely more extrovert than introvert.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, we mentioned during the beginning that you are a coach and you empower others to as well, and you've been a cultural champion in the workplace. What is something that excites you when you see it happen in somebody else during that process?
Yeah, I think the most rewarding situation and examples are when people you see them grow and like they're really growing to like their own confidence and see them succeed with things that was maybe challenging in the beginning or able to get that promotion or embracing new opportunities which might be challenging and see that that kind of joy and happiness and that confidence grow when they realized they succeeded and also uh, you have a very, very rewarding situation, like when people share that, I can do this, I want to try. So a lot of people that I worked with, initially maybe didn't really have experience in a certain areas, and they have one very specific example which I still love, and it was one of my first employees, and she never been into marketing, and in her interview with me, more or less her opening statement was that I don't know anything about marketing.
It's a bold statement for an interview.
Yeah, and I was obviously maybe a little bit surprised about her honesty, but I just loved her mindset so much and the curiosity in the conversation. It wasn't for a super senior role, so obviously that is something I took into consideration. So I really chose her based on mindset and curiosity. And just watching, how she embraced things over time and how she learned and how she grew, that for me was truly, truly rewarding. And there's a few more examples of those when, taking on people that are definitely, let's say, unexperienced in certain areas. And then by coaching and supporting and really believing in people to ensure they go to the next level, that's definitely the most exciting part.
I'm keen to know from you, what is leadership to you? How would you define it?
Like I said, for me, leadership is very much about, trying to create followers and leading by example. I mean, sometimes it's easier said than done, but it's something I'm actively trying to work on every day. I mean, there's a few values that I believe is really important as well. So personal integrity is one of them, very, very important. But combining that with empathy, as we spoke about, I think that also like strong sense of like accountability for me is very important. Feeling accountable for what you have said or what you're doing is a really key part, especially in leadership. Actually, I think for all roles. And then having a clear vision of where you want to go. For me that's probably the most important ones. Maybe add in resilience as well. I mean, challenges will come, and you need the grit to really push through.
Yeah. When you've been leading teams now for many years, as we mentioned, but you're also a mother. What values do you instill in leaders of tomorrow?
Yeah, I come back to empathy and integrity, and maybe grit a little bit too. If I look at my son, I want to make sure that he he also feels accountable for the things he needs to accomplish in school, and for things that he needs to achieve also in the longer term, no matter what he decides to do professionally. But with the combinations of resilience, empathy, integrity, and a bit of grit, I think those are the key ones. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. We're not done yet, but I've really enjoyed this conversation so far. That opinion might change depending on what happens next, because this is where we get to the virtually anything goes question. If you've never listened to this podcast before, we end each episode with the virtually anything goes question, which is where I turn over control to our guest, in this case, Anna. And you can ask me any question you want, and I don't know what it is, so I'll be put on the spot. But I have to answer it. But my safety net is that once I've given my answer, then you have to give your answer as well to the same question. So, Anna, I'll turn the control over to you and let you ask your virtually anything goes question for me.
Thank you. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I can be.
No, I mean, we talked a lot about leadership, but I am also a firm believer that in order to be able to lead effectively, in order to perform, in order to also be happy at work, you need a balance between work and life. And for me, having your health and your time with yourself, for yourself, prioritizing yourself is really, really important. So I'm keen to understand, what are you doing to, I guess, reward yourself and get your energy levels up, or prioritize things for yourself? What would you do then?
Great.
Outside of work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm lucky enough that work does energize me, which might sound a bit sad, but there are obviously personal sides as well. So we touched on being introverted versus extroverted, and the best way I've heard it described to me is that as an introvert or an extrovert, if you have five coins that are your energy, as an introvert, you spend your coins when you are with people and in social situations, and at the end of the day, you've spent your coins. Your energy is down, and you have to kind of relax to build those coins up again, the energy up again. For extroverts, it's the other way around. You collect coins every time you engage with somebody, every time you're in social situations, you collect those coins. I'm more on the introvert side, so I get to a point where at the end of each day, I need to decompress. I need to, spend some time alone, or certainly have a time where I can just reflect and process the day. And that is really important. And if I don't have that, then, over days and weeks, that can have quite the opposite effect of not getting those coins back. So that doesn't mean I go off into the wilderness and, ignore everybody else. But it does mean that, when I come home, it's very important for me to spend time with my family. I've got 2 kids and obviously a wonderful wife, and that is for me already relaxation. And it doesn't matter whether that is doing homework or whether that is doing, going to the football pitch or watching my daughter dance. That time spent energizes me as it would do for an extrovert. From an introvert perspective, I do need to spend some time alone. So I do try and find time each evening where I can just almost go into nothingness, or at least let the brain catch up and process. But then physically as well, it is hard. I think when you're a young parent or parent of young children, there is not much time that you can take for yourself. And we're now at a stage where our children are older. But in those early days, it's hard to make time without compromising time you should be spending or want to be spending with your family. So to then go to the gym or join a team or things like that. But certainly over the last few years, I've been able to spend more time going to the gym, being active. Through an old injury, I can't really do much team sport, but going to the gym is important. Just it is also that alone time, but it's also physically staying active, and making sure that your body is still going to be okay in 20-25 years time. So yeah, that's for me, I suppose, how I do it is a combination of family time, spending time with friends, and spending time alone and then being physically active. So it might be a common answer. I don't know, but for me, that is the answer of how I approach it.
Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, and I think that's I wouldn't say similar, but what I am trying to actively prioritize is really minimum, 1 hour a day, potentially more if I can, but to do something, physical, active. I'm very passionate, as you mentioned in the beginning, but I'm a passionate about, well, fitness is a very nice word, but trying to have a balance between a, like physical active life and obviously everything else from a professional perspective. So for me, it's very, very, very important to find that, let's say, activity level as part of my day, because that's literally also when I regain a lot of energy and maybe you clear your head. So it's a variety of things I do. I mean, we mentioned sort of my passion for horses. So obviously stable time is one of them, or, it can be also going to the gym. I run Tabata sessions for the neighbors and for the community a couple of days a week when I'm not traveling. And that for me, having at least that hour, preferably more if I can, as part of my daily routine is really, really important. And I try to be quite strict with it. So that is that is also how I think I hopefully am a better mom and wife and colleague and leader.
Yeah. Just out of interest, are you part of the 5 a.m. club that does all the activities in the morning, or are you more of an evening person where that happens after work?
That is really, like, it's actually a desire I have. I am not a morning person, but I am actively trying to shift my my kind of my rhythm a little bit. I used to, like, some years ago, I really used to stay up very, very late, which meant obviously I kind of tried to push, like, the meetings out, so not start before 9 a.m. But now I try to go to bed a little bit earlier, and I do take power walks in the morning before I start my laptop if I'm not traveling. So 5 a.m. no, but I'm definitely up. Yeah, around 6:30 maybe these days.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, that's earlier than me. But very admirable. Excellent. And it's been such a great conversation, and I really enjoyed getting some insights into your journey into leadership, your experience with that, and kind of what brought you there. So appreciate you being that so open with us and giving us that insight. It's been great to have you.
Thank you so much. Love the conversation.
Yeah, wonderful. No, it's wonderful. And if this is your first time listening or watching this episode or any episode on the Virtually Anything Goes podcast, there are more. If you like this one and you think somebody else would like it as well, please share it. It helps us reach the right audience with the stories that we have here. And of course, subscribe and check out the ones that are coming up, and indeed the ones that already exist. Anna, thank you so much. And of course, thank you to our audience for listening as well. We always love having you with us. And we'll see you again, hopefully very soon in another episode. Take care.